I was jerking off with this lady online over Discord, and this girl told me how critical it really is that you give your game a very proper name that doesn't make people confused. And I was thinking about that after I washed my hands, and I was thinking, you know, that'd make a really good video. Games that have really crappy names. It can also hurt a game when it has an alternative name in a different region, like in Europe or Japan, it's called something else. You know what I mean? Like, I know somebody's gonna bring this up in this video, but AVGN, you did a whole thing about chronologically confusing game titles and movie titles and stuff like that. Well, that stuff still goes on to this day, and it's crazy to think about. But not only can they be chronologically confusing, they could just be confusing in general. Like, you could be buying a game thinking you're getting something else. And I have a really good example of this from my childhood. Once upon a time in the early 2000s, my friends were telling me all about this PC game where you build your own roller coasters and theme parks and stuff like that. And in the late 90s, I had a PS1 game called Sim Theme Park, and that was a really fun game. Now, what's interesting is Sim Theme Park is not the same game as Theme Park, which is a PC game. However, Sim Theme Park was also released on PC, and obviously that version's better. I mean, have you seen the console ports of Sim games? SimCity on Super Nintendo was great, yeah, but have you seen the Super Nintendo port of SimCity 2000? Even the PlayStation 1 version was awful. It did have good music, though. And I was telling my school friends about Sim Theme Park, and they told me, no, that's not the roller coaster game we're talking about. They told me it was Roller Coaster Tycoon. Oh, I must go look it up. Well, then later I forget about it, and then I met Babbage's one day, which became GameStop later on, and there it is, Roller Coaster Factory. I thought that was the game they were talking about, so I grabbed that one. And it looks like this. Well, I say it looked like that. It looked like that, but it ran at like 2 frames per second because my Windows 98 PC was so slow it could barely run DOS games. Anything 3D would just chug it down to a crawl, but 2D games like SimCity were just fine. But despite the fact this wasn't the game my friends were talking about, I still enjoyed it a bit. I still played around with it. In fact, I found out that there was a sequel to it, Roller Coaster Factory 2, which even more confused me because there was a Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And you know what? That game was fun to me too. By this time, I had my family's Windows XP computer, which could play some 3D games. And boy, did I have a lot of shovelware racing games. I'll have to review them someday so you can see them. But back to Sim Theme Park, it turns out that Sim Theme Park was called Theme Park World in Europe. And it actually had a different voice actor in there that was British, and in the US it had a guy with a US accent. The most confusing part of this is in the PS1 version of Sim Theme Park, the cutscenes that played at the start of the game said Theme Park World and not Sim Theme Park. So I thought like maybe this was a completely different game and this was an advertisement for it, and the fact that there was a PC game that was just called Theme Park did not help at all. So never in my life did I ever own Roller Coaster Tycoon. I thought I may have picked it up on GOG recently, but I just checked and no, I didn't. I think I did pick up a physical copy at a flea market one time, but I think I lost it. Well, I lost it a long time ago, but yeah, I don't know where it is. Possibly lost it completely. Anyway, when you put a name to a video game, you gotta be really careful what you name this thing, because you could really conflict with other games that exist or make people really fucking confused not knowing what the hell they just bought. I'm not saying be basic as fuck about it, because I've seen people do that. Here's a game I actually own called Racing. Racing. And yep, it's most definitely racing. They didn't say it was good racing, but it's racing. If you want to look up the most basic bitch titles for video games you ever seen, look up the PlayStation Simple series on Wikipedia one day. That's actually where this game comes from. I fucking love that music. I made my own words to it. Fucking and a shitting and a pissing and a puking and a fucking and a shitting and a pissing and a puking and a pissing. Come in. Yeah. Ooh. One game I really want to talk about on here is a game I'm actually making a review about right now. It's Resident Evil Survivor. That game was supposed to be a whole spin-off of light gun games that were based off Resident Evil. They were not meant to be like canon or part of the main series, but somehow they ended up as that. In Japan, the first game was called Biohazard Gun Survivor, and then the second one was called Biohazard Gun Survivor 2. But we didn't get that game at all in America, which is funny because I remember an Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine that showed off an upcoming game called Resident Evil Survivor 2. It didn't show any pictures of it, it just mentioned the name, but we never got it. Or did we? Later we would get Resident Evil Dead Aim, which was also a light gun game and was Gun Survivor 4 in Japan, and it was the last game in the Gun Survivor series. Now, I prefer Survivor over Dead Aim, even though Dead Aim had way better controls and frame rate. Dead Aim was a game I think would have done better as its own thing. Anyway, Gun Survivor 2 came out in Japan, and it was a game based on Code Veronica. It also got an arcade cabinet, apparently. But the weirdest thing of all is Gun Survivor 3 was not Resident Evil at all. It was Dino Crisis. It was a PlayStation 2 light gun game called Dino Stalker. It reminds me how the Crazy Castle series suddenly went from Bugs Bunny to Woody Woodpecker without warning. Or those movies that have sequels that have nothing to do with the original series. Did you know we're getting a Naked Gun reboot with Seth MacFarlane at the helm? Well, if you didn't, I'm sorry, I'm the one who told you that. So there were 4 Gun Survivor games, 3 of them were Resident Evil, 1 was Dino Crisis, and we only got 3 of the games. And all my childhood life, I always wondered whatever happened to Resident Evil Survivor 2. And to save myself a bunch of YouTube comments, Europe got it too, apparently. Let's talk PC games. I'm bad about leaving you PC gamer guys out. This is for you. Let's talk about the Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds. They're completely separate games that have nothing to do with each other, and people get them mixed up all the time. In fact, I bet you didn't know that they're completely different games, and that the other one existed. What's even more confusing is Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds both have space exploration in them, in a way. In Outer Worlds, you use a spaceship to go from map to map. The ship is your fast travel system, but in Outer Wilds, you actually pilot the ship. Todd Howard could learn a few things from these guys. Anyway, I haven't played Outer Wilds, but it is in my Steam folder, but I 100%ed Outer Worlds if I remember correctly. I don't even have the newest edition of it. I have the launch edition when it first came out. I didn't even wait for it to come out on Steam. I got the Epic Games Store version. That's how desperate I was for this game. Because I fell for the hype. Oh, it's Obsidian. It's the same people that made Fallout New Vegas. No, it wasn't. And for a Fallout ripoff, it's not bad, honestly. It's just not amazing. It runs out of steam, really quick. And once you've seen everything, that's about it. You can finish this game a lot faster than a typical Fallout game. And it was still the same price as one. I heard that they put out an enhanced version of that game that had a whole bunch more content, and it was slam full of bugs. So I guess it's even more like a Fallout game now. Anyway, yeah, Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds, completely different games, but people get them mixed up all the time. And don't even get me started about Prey. You know what? Never mind. I will do Prey. We have 2 completely different video games called Prey, and we have a movie called Prey. I mean, if you dig into Prey 2017's development cycle enough, you can find ties to it, but the game is nothing like the original Prey. The original Prey is a fucking masterpiece, in my opinion. I love this game. It's a bitch to live stream because of all the licensed music, but I think there's a mod to get rid of that. But the story behind the development of this game is insane. It's crazy how it went from Apogee and 3D Realms to somebody else to this guy and that guy, and it went through 100 different engines. It almost became another Duke Nukem Forever. But when this game finally did come out, it kicked fucking ass. It was doing the Portal shit long before Portal was. I mean, how many games let you play as a badass Native American dude? And he uses his powers to kick the shit out of alien bastards. That's a game. Now that may sound like I don't like Prey 2017. On the contrary, I love that game too. I think they're both amazing. Think about how different Resident Evil 4 is to the original PS1 trilogy. That's what happened here. Even though it's completely different, it's still an amazing game, and it was able to prove itself.
Bro.
I think they're both good. Speaking of Resident Evil 4, I'm sure you've heard this before, but Resident Evil 4 was a completely different game at one time. And it turned out to be so damn different that they decided to run with the differences and make it into its own game, which became Devil May Cry. And especially in the first part of the game, you can tell that it was going to be Resident Evil at one time. The way the cameras are set up, the way the text is set up, all that stuff, you can tell what this game was going to be. I'm glad they went ahead and turned Devil May Cry into its own series, because since they did that, we got 2 fucking amazing games out of it. They made a completely new Resident Evil 4 from scratch, and DMC became its own thing. And then they dropped the ball on that in the sequel. It got better though. Then not as good, then fucking terrible, then good again. Hey, Resident Evil 4 and everything after that kind of did the same thing. Not as good, fucking terrible, then good again. And it's funny how Resident Evil 7 was a first-person game, because the last game we had that was first-person was...
What are you talking about? Answer me! Who did I kill?
God, I can't wait to get that video done. I'm holding back so many of my jokes. Now, earlier I was talking about Japan changing the names of video games in different regions. Sometimes they had to do that for copyright reasons. For example, Rad Racer on the NES in Japan was called Highway Star, and they had to change that because the heavy metal band Deep Purple had a song called Highway Star, much like Deadly Towers used to be called Hell's Bells. Even in America this happens. Like Ion Fury used to be called Ion Maiden, but Bruce Dickinson just could not have that because the bullshit that they do goes on and on. Instead of the number of the beast, it's the number of my lawyer. Please don't sue me. And lest we not forget the fact that we had a racing game series called Top Gear. The development crew was all British, so yeah, they knew what they were doing. Funny enough, in Japan, it was not called Top Gear, it was called Top Racer. And that's what the games are called on Steam right now. And it's nice that Top Gear 1, 2, and 3000 are now on Steam, because I know Top Gear 3000 is a pretty expensive game. Now we can all jam out to that. I'll tell you one thing that really pisses me off though, when somebody names a video game something that makes it hard to search for something else. Have you ever been curious and wanted to look up prototype games on eBay? Well, there's some prototype games on eBay, all right. Here they are, and here they are, and here they are. You get it. I want to choke the life out of whoever decided to name this game Prototype. Did you know that Atari put out a mini PC called the Atari VCS? Well, God help you if you want to find parts for that thing. Maybe you're an NES collector and you want to find a Nintendo Power Pad or a Nintendo Power Glove. Yeah, good luck with that. But I think the most hilarious accidental naming of all has to be one of my friend's indie games, Ricky and Vicky on the Atari 7800, which is on Steam right now, and you can pick it up for $2 every now and then. But the reason it is so damn funny is because, as it turns out, when you search Ricky and Vicky on Google, what comes up is a duo of porn stars named Ricky and Vicky. And yes, they are sisters, and yes, they do bone. Me being from Louisiana, I'm going, and this is strange how? I'm joking. Now then, my friends. I was gonna stop the video right there, but then I remembered a game that I collected because I saw a few YouTube videos about it that had came out recently, and I wanted to grab the game before the resellers got a hold of it, and I still have it, and it doesn't seem like the resellers did get a hold of it, but I'm going to hold on to it because I just love this stupid game so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the dumbest, most ridiculous title I have ever seen for a video game that was a commercially produced product in my entire life. El Shaddai and the Ascension of the Metatron.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
Okay, I kind of know what Metatron is because I've heard that word before. There's a MacGuffin in Silent Hill 3 that's called the Seal of Metatron, so I've heard that name before. It's not a Transformer, I swear. El Shaddai is not preparing some Energon cubes.
Soundwave, prepare the Energon cubes.
You should definitely look up the YouTube videos about this crazy-ass game, too. It is so weird, and the guys that made those videos can do a way better job of explaining it than I can. But long story short, it was going to be an entire franchise by this visionary Japanese developer, and he had apparently written this very, very long story that was going to be explained in video game form, and apparently El Shaddai was going to be part 4. Okay, Lucas, whatever you say. But as you can imagine, this game flopped like a limp dick, and none of that shit ever happened. Gee, I wonder why nobody bought a game called El Camino and the Asterix and something other. How is anybody supposed to remember a title like that, much less spell it? You can't even make a good abbreviation out of it. Oh, speaking of abbreviations, I need to talk about this. It's bad enough when game titles get confusing, but when the abbreviations of game titles get confusing, oh my God, you can get into some hot water with that shit. Guys, before we leave tonight, I want to have a moment of silence for everybody on those old-ass gaming forums back in the day who had to abbreviate Championship Pool, Caesar's Palace, hell, for that matter, Super Caesar's Palace, Club Penguin, that's an obvious one. If you look on old gaming forums about the Nintendo 64, apparently a lot of people love Burger King. I also feel sorry for anybody who loves Sam and Max, but to me, the saddest one of all, even though it doesn't sound inappropriate, and it's not, the one that makes me the saddest is anybody who's big into spaceship shoot-'em-ups and is a big fan of Thunder Force 2. You know what the abbreviation of that one is? I have no idea! And that's all I got. Next video you're gonna see from me is the Switch 2 video. I'm gonna be late to the party, but hey, that's never stopped me before. I mean, what? You want me to stop making videos altogether?
Yes!
Wait, that's not the right clip. Oh, here it is.
Why won't you die?
Because it brings me so much joy to see haters pissed off that I'm still here. If you've got nothing else to live for in life, live out of spite. Live because it pisses somebody off. I'm Stuart K Reilly. If you never heard of me, I'm Stuart K Reilly. I'm out.